hear from someone who's been there.
The rule of law is stronger than any one man or any one woman.
You need your Morning Joe, only on MSNBC.
While Congress finally passed a much-needed COVID relief bill, Donald Trump tonight suggested he might not sign it unless Congress makes immediate changes to the package. Unfortunately, it's been 8 months since the last relief was passed, and Americans are struggling without it. And while it does provide some long-awaited help, it doesn't go nearly far enough for Americans hit hardest by the virus. The package includes a $600 direct payment to most Americans, but that is half of what was given in the last round. And for families waiting 8 months for help, a one-time payment of $600 doesn't go very far towards rent, bills, or even gas. Keeping food on the table has especially been a challenge for millions of Americans, and that strain has been felt at local food banks across the country. Scenes like this in Fort Worth, Texas are becoming all too common, with hundreds of cars lined up for hours trying to receive boxes of groceries. Joining me now is Claire Babineau-Fontenot, CEO of Feeding America, and Nikita Stewart, assistant editor of the New York Times. Claire, thank you so much. This is what gets me about this. This new relief bill, if it gets passed and it's implemented, I know a lot of Americans out there who are struggling are saying, okay, well, how does this bill help me? Outside of the $600 payment, which quite frankly barely covers postage, what in this bill will actually help people who are starving and needy right now and are very, very food insecure?
Oh. Well, first, thanks for having me. And you are highlighting the fact that there are real people who are really struggling right now and have been for quite a long time. One of the things that is in the bill that is on the president's desk is some long-awaited relief in the form of commodities that would help us to get food as a food banking network, get food to people in need. Your audience may not be aware of the fact that about 50% of the commodities that we had last year are about to expire at the end of this year, when we're seeing a 60% increase in demand. So we desperately need to make certain that we fill in that gap, and there is a provision inside of the legislation that's designed to do that.
So, Nikita, one of the things that we've seen when it comes to food insecurity is a lot of the resources that Claire sort of alluded to, a lot of the resources are drying up. Restaurants in New York and Houston and Atlanta, restaurants that used to provide a lot of food to people in need are closing down. Where is the food going to come from? It's one thing to have money, but how does this bill actually provide the food, or does it provide the food or access to the food for people who are suffering this holiday season and beyond?
When it comes to the stimulus, I think one of the things that we have to talk about is, even though you want to talk about the distribution of food and
Nikita,
how it gets there.
I'm sorry. Donald Trump has issued a slew of new pardons. Joining me now is MSNBC political correspondent Josh Letterman. Josh, good to speak to you for this breaking news. Have to ask you very quickly. I'm looking through this list here. I've seen this list. Some of these are pardons for people whose sentences Trump has already commuted, but I'm also picking up a theme here with a lot of these congressmen, including Congressman Stockman. It seems like a lot of people getting pardons for financial crimes. Is Trump sort of giving us a hint as to what he may be wanting to do in the future and what he's worried about?
Well, certainly. And these are all people who are in and around his orbit. Not all of them, but a lot of the big names here are people that, frankly, have been part of all of the stories about the swamp that Trump said he was going to get rid of, but that we've continued to see be a dominant theme throughout the Trump administration. Some of these people are folks who lied on behalf of President Trump, who sought to advance his political interests, or were certainly accused of taking steps that were against the law when the ultimate goal was loyalty to and furtherance of President Trump and his political goals. Also very notable, there's several Republican members of Congress that the president is also granting clemency to this evening. Now, we don't know whether this is the end of the road, so to speak, whether there's going to be even more in the works. Certainly there are additional people who have faced legal jeopardy as a result of their work work for President Trump in the last 4 years who could presumably be on that list. But you just contrast it with, for example, the final few weeks of the Obama administration when there was, in fact, a slew of clemency grants by President Obama. But those were all people, I think it was upwards of 1,000, if I recall, people who were convicted by and large of low-level drug offenses, of minor things that had nothing to do with President Obama, but where the president was able to use his really amazing clemency powers to try to help people start new lives. In contrast, what we're seeing from President Trump, it seems to be based on who he's chosen, essentially paying back folks who have been very loyal to him for several years.
Right. Trump isn't just a part of the swamp. He's basically taking his muddy shoes and kicking America's couch with it. My question is, what happens with Rudy Giuliani? That is the person that I think many Americans, because of the number of investigations, because he's had his finger in so many sort of corrupt and dishonest and questionable actions, do we think that this is a precursor to Trump pardoning Rudy Giuliani, or do you think that's something that may wait until the last day he's in office?
I would have to imagine that this would be something that the president would wait until the last minute for, if only because Rudy Giuliani is actively right now involved in the president's legal defense and the questions that would raise for how he carries forward in just the next couple of weeks. That having been said, we don't know all of what Rudy Giuliani is under investigation for. Some of what he's doing now has raised legal questions, and certainly the president, at the point in time that he were to grant a pardon for Rudy Giuliani, if he did that, could pardon any crimes committed up until that point. But as we know, he can't pardon Rudy Giuliani for anything he might do in the next few weeks or in the future.
Goodness gracious. All right. Thank you so much, Josh Letterman. That's the ReidOut for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Jason Johnson. All In with Chris Hayes starts now.